Animation is a beloved genre for many families. It allows children to embark on colorful adventures, and if done right, offers some quality moments for both the kids and the parents. Animated films often stick sly adult jokes into their films for the parents, but what happens when the kids catch on? Awkwardness ensues. Before we start, give this video a big thumbs up and click the subscribe button to get more sweet content from Screen Rant.
And Cottontail.
Zootopia. Let's get it out of the way. Zootopia was one of the best Disney films made in years. It offered a touching and often quite grown-up tale which followed Judy's quest to become a police officer in the wacky animal-filled city. This Oscar winner also had some awkward sly references in it. From Breaking Bad references to The Godfather, the film is littered with moments that adults will only get and be squirming in their seats. But that's just the pop culture stuff. Disney went full awkward in one scene as well. In one moment in the film, Judy is informing her companion Nick of all the additions she's had to undertake for her menial job in the Force. This is perhaps one of the more in-your-face jokes Disney has done.
I mean, I am just a dumb bunny, but we are good at multiplying. Anyway,
Disney just went there. Any kid watching this scene who caught this joke will have naturally asked their parents the hilarious and age-old question, where do babies come from? And parents certainly didn't want to be forced to have that conversation before they wanted to, thanks to a Disney movie with talking animals. Ratatouille. While younger kids may not get all the sly references in animated films, once kids get to that awkward age where they start getting things but are still a child, it's all over for everyone in the room. That likely happened for some families when they all sat together to watch the hit Pixar film Ratatouille. What could possibly be awkward about a movie that features the culinary arts and talking animals? Not much, except for one hysterical moment involving the human characters. When the human protagonist Linguini is confessing his secret to Colette, he naturally has a hard time finding the right words to describe his unique situation. As he stumbles for words, he states he has
this tiny little.
While Colette, perhaps a little disturbed as well as confused, takes a brief peek below Linguini's belt. You know, just to check. It's an extremely not so subtle play on Pixar's part, but once you make the connection as to the importance of the glance, we're sure that many kids awkwardly looked away from the movie for a few seconds to pretend that they didn't quite understand the reference. Looking back at the moment is always worth a great laugh, though.
I'd like to join your posse, boys, but first I'm gonna sing a little song.
Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 gets the honor of having two raunchy moments in their film that would have certainly raised some eyebrows for parents and possibly made kids feel a little weird. The first incident was when Barbie met Ken for the first time. It was a long time coming, and these two toys hit it off right from the get-go, with Barbie telling Ken that she loves his ascot, an obvious reference to both loving that booty as well as loving Ken's fashion sense. The next moment came from the Potato Heads, and it's a lot raunchier once you're old enough to get it. Lotso, the villainous pink bear from the film, steals Mrs. Potato Head's lips, thus preventing her from talking back to him. Furious, Mr. Potato Head yells,
Hey, no one takes my wife's mouth, except me.
What kids heard on this one and what adults understood here are two very, very different things. Any future family viewing experiences are likely tainted now, or at the very least, cause an awkward laugh to be shared. Leave it to Pixar to toss adult humor into their movies. Tangled. Okay, so this one actually isn't in the movie itself, but it was right there in the promotional posters for the movie, so we're gonna say it counts since many of us saw the posters at cinemas or advertised all over town leading up to the film's release in 2010. The poster in question sees Rapunzel tying up Flynn with her hair, perhaps to make sure he doesn't run away or anything, while his trusty horse companion Maximus glares across to his captured friend and the chameleon Pascal. Or perhaps there was another reason why Flynn was all tied up. What you might not see though is the clever and hidden message that's hidden in plain sight. Using the knots in her hair, the animators slipped in another instance of having a sexy word appear in the marketing material. It's really subtle, but once it's pointed out, it's actually pretty unmissable, to the point where it's more noticeable than a similar moment in the classic film The Lion King. Did you ever catch this adult moment in the Tangled poster? Ever pointed out to anyone else? Let us know in the comments. Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Remember this hit Disney film? We bet you do, but perhaps the details are a bit fuzzy as it doesn't have the same cultural impact as, say, The Lion King or Toy Story. Regardless if you do remember the movie or not, you might recall turning a bit red if you watched it with your parents at a young age. Atlantis was a pretty fun, light-hearted film which saw the adventurer Milo embark on a quest to find the lost city of Atlantis, something we all wish we'll get to see in our own lifetime. He comes home one stormy evening to discover a woman waiting for him at his apartment. Cue the steamy jazz music. This is Helga, and boy does she ever flaunt it. When asked how she got into to Milo's home, she merely replies she came down the chimney and loosens up her overcoat to become a bit more revealing. To make matters worse, her strap decides to roll away. The scene is perhaps flirtier and more suggestive than we remember, plus the use of the jazz music makes this one perhaps more awkward for the parents than the kids.
Surrender, Buzz Lightyear. I have won.
I'll never give in. You killed my father.
No, Buzz. I am your father.
Toy Story 2. The Toy Story franchise is littered with sly and potentially awkward moments for the whole family. Pixar constantly inserts little references into their films. This will definitely cause some uncomfortable conversations at the dinner table if a child were to ask what the meaning behind a certain joke meant. Toy Story 2 is no exception to this, having some hilarious moments that may be a bit more awkward for the younger mind. One such moment comes towards the end of the film, in what has to be one of the funniest moments in Pixar's history. Newly inducted into Andy's collection, the cowgirl Jessie takes it upon herself to get Andy's puppy out of the room in order to relieve himself. In a callback to the first film, she surfs the car down the track and jumps in the air, landing on the doorknob in order to free Buster. The thing is, she totally one-upped Buzz, and he was impressed, perhaps too impressed, as his wings popped out on their own, standing at full attention, so to speak, in his excitement. If you don't get that, then you're still too young. Here's hoping we get more clever moments like this in Toy Story 4 in 2019.
Hold still, will ya?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? This Disney moment is way more messed up than the last. At least in Frozen, the characters were just alluding to something a little cheeky. In this example, the animators actually put in something visual that should definitely not be in a kid's movie. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, Who Framed Roger Rabbit blends live action and animation in the story of a private detective investigating the murder of a rich businessman. The film was released in 1988, long before the prying eyes of the internet were able to find every little Easter egg in a film. So, the animators probably thought they could get away with it when they snuck some nudity into the film. That's right, in a very quick moment featuring the animated character Jessica Rabbit, her dress flies up to reveal that she isn't wearing any underwear. At a time when you could only get the movie on VHS, it must have been really hard to find this messed up Easter egg. But what makes this story really interesting is that Disney actually altered the scene in later releases after this snapshot was found. I wonder how much trouble the animator got into for this prank.
Shall never see the light of another day. Adieu.
Didn't your mother ever tell you not to play with your food?
The Lion King. The Lion King is a certified Disney classic. Released in 1994 during Disney's Renaissance era, The Lion King is the epic story of Simba that won 2 Academy Awards, led to a Broadway musical, and spawned several sequels, including 2, that's right, 2 television series. This film doesn't so much feature a messed up moment as it does a whole messed up storyline. Let's break it down. In A Pride of Lions, all of the female lionesses are related to each other. They all stick together in one pride with a male leader. The male lions are expected to go off and form their own pride. That means that in The Lion King, Simba and Nala must be related. They might not be siblings, but they are, at the very least, cousins. It makes it kind of difficult to justify their whole romance. Of course, the filmmakers are going to take some artistic liberties with the science behind the film. I mean, lions don't talk or sing in real life. But this is one of those issues that could have been easily avoided with a quick mention that Nala was maybe adopted. We'll see how this plot point is handled in the live-action remake, set for release in July of 2019. Toy Story 3. The third installment in the wildly successful Toy Story franchise was released in 2010. Directed by Lee Unkrich and written by Michael Arndt, the film revolves around Andy preparing to leave for college. The legendary cast returned to reprise their iconic roles, including Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and Joan Cusack, with a few new voices from celebrities like Whoopi Goldberg, Michael Keaton, and Timothy Dalton. The stellar cast, superb animation, and heartbreaking story all work together to make Toy Story 3 a worthy entry in the franchise. But of course, like every other film on this list, Disney couldn't help but include a pretty messed up moment in the plot. This one isn't an adult theme or hidden message, but it's a really heavy moment for a kid's movie. At one point in the film, all of the toys are stuck in a furnace with seemingly no way out. They all look out together at the flames that are about to burn them to death, and just decide to huddle together, close their eyes, and embrace the inevitability of their demise. Holy crap! Come on, Disney, that's just dark.
I have decided to make my final wish. I wish for Princess Jasmine to fall desperately in love with me.
Aladdin. This next moment has been the stuff of disturbing Disney legend since the movie was released back in 1992, and it comes from Aladdin. This Disney Renaissance classic tells the story of the eponymous street rat Aladdin, who meets a genie voiced by the late great Robin Williams, who helps make his dreams of becoming a prince into a reality. The film was a huge success, leading to a few unfortunate direct-to-video sequels, a TV series, video games, and, you guessed it, a Broadway musical. It's been a long-held rumor that you can hear a mysterious voice in the background of one scene saying, "Good teenagers, take off your clothes." When you turn the volume up really high, it actually sounds pretty unmistakable. Disney has maintained that Aladdin is in fact saying, "Come on, good kitty, take off and go." The subtitles for the film even read something to that effect, but it seems as if there's a second voice present somewhere in the audio track. The problem with this rumor is that once you're told what to listen for, your brain sort of creates those words out of the jumbled track in the movie. But still, this is one messed up Disney moment we'll never really have a clear answer to. The Rescuers. This next entry actually caused a bit of controversy because Disney ended up recalling millions of copies of the home video release when it was discovered. This history-making moment comes from 1977's The Rescuers. The story revolves around a mouse rescue agency on a mission to save an orphan girl being held hostage by the evil Madame Medusa. In one scene, our heroes are riding a sardine box through the city and pass by numerous apartment buildings whizzing by in the background. If you pause the original version of the film at just the right point, you can very clearly see a woman who we can only assume is in the middle of changing in front of the window. Apparently, this wasn't the fault of a rogue animator. Disney has stated that they believe somebody inserted the photo at some point during post-production. However it happened, the image made it into the theatrical release and the first home video release of the film before the infamous recall. Funnily enough, the Easter egg wasn't widely known at the time of Disney's recall, so by issuing a public statement about it, they kind of clued everybody in themselves. Pinocchio. Originally released in 1940, Pinocchio is one of the oldest films on this list. It focuses on a wooden puppet brought to life by a fairy who is determined to become a real boy. His growing nose has become ubiquitous since the film's release. Pinocchio wasn't an immediate critical success, but it was a monumental achievement in animation at the time for its realistic movement and detailed animation of weather and natural environments. The film did eventually find its audience when it was re-released in 1945, and has since been added to the United States National Film Registry for its historical and cultural significance. But there's a pretty strange plot point in the film that's actually totally messed up when you stop to think about it. In the film, all of the boys on Pleasure Island who misbehave are turned into donkeys who can't speak and are sold into slave labor in a salt mine. The ones who do retain their voices are crying and begging to return home to their families. It's seriously messed up and must have given plenty of kids nightmares back in the 40s. The worst part is that the villains kind of just get away with everything in the end, so we don't even get the satisfaction of seeing them pay for what they've done. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is the very first feature-length animated film by Disney, so its inclusion on this list proves that Disney has been sneaking messed up moments into its films from the very beginning, and they've always been getting away with it. Snow White was nominated for Best Musical Score at the Oscars, and Walt Disney was given an honorary Oscar because of the film. At the time, it set the record for being the highest-grossing sound film. The plot is an adaptation of the original fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm, but the Disney version has become so ingrained in our culture that most people think of the movie version when referencing the popular character. The original Brothers Grimm tales are always a little more messed up than their Disney counterparts, but that doesn't mean Disney didn't retain some of the grimness of the original. Think about it, the evil queen takes out a hit on her own stepdaughter. That's already pretty messed up for a kid's movie, but what's more? She asks for her heart as proof that the deed was carried out effectively. Come on, evil queen, have a heart. Or rather, don't.
That this was all just a big mistake. Huh? Right? Buddy?
Let's go back to Toy Story, because there are plenty of messed up moments throughout the entire franchise. This one comes from the first movie, which was originally released back in 1995. In fact, Toy Story is the very first feature-length film made entirely with computer animation. Now, we all remember the scene in which Woody and Buzz are captured by the downright evil kid next door, Sid. His version of playing with his toys involves torturing, dismembering, and reassembling them into gruesome Frankenstein-esque creations. This scene is creepy enough as it is, but if you take one small detail into account, it gets even more messed up. In one moment during the scene, Sid burns Woody by pointing a magnifying glass at him. Woody remains calm until Sid is out of sight and then cries out in horror. This confirms one important detail: the toys can feel pain. So not only is Sid hurting Woody in this scene, but all of his other toys would have felt every moment of their dismemberment and reassembly. Imagine feeling that level of brutal pain, but having to remain completely still and silent through all of it. That's enough to give us nightmares even as adults.
Honey!
What?
Where's my super suit?
What?
Where is my super suit?
The Incredibles. 2004's The Incredibles features a superhero family who keep their powers a secret in their nice suburban town. When former fan turned supervillain Syndrome threatens Earth with an evil robot, the Incredibles must work together to stop him. The film was written and directed by Brad Bird, the man behind the criminally underrated film The Iron Giant. Thankfully, The Incredibles was a critical and commercial success, winning 2 Academy Awards, including Best Animated Feature. The Incredibles features so many sly adult jokes that it's hard to just focus on one. In their first encounter, Elastigirl tells Mr. Incredible that she's very flexible in the bedroom. Considering the nature of her superpowers, it's kind of weird when you really stop to think about it. Later, with Mr. Incredible back to fighting evil, we're treated to a montage highlighting his improved mood, which features a lot of renewed passion for Elastigirl. All of this kind of just gives us that feeling of watching your parents kiss. Ew. Fans of The Incredibles have a lot to be excited about. The film is finally getting a sequel after over a decade. The Incredibles 2 is set for release in June of 2018, with Holly Hunter, the voice of Elastigirl, and Samuel L. Jackson confirmed to be reprising their roles.
Uh-oh, she put her hair up. We're in for it.
Inside Out. 2015's Inside Out is the award-winning Disney Pixar film that peers into the mind of a young girl to follow the personified emotions that influence her life. The film was directed and co-written by Pete Docter, who was inspired by his own daughter's experiences growing up. While the film may focus on family-friendly fun, some serious research went into writing the script. The writers consulted numerous psychologists and specialists in the field of neuropsychology, human emotion, and interpersonal relationships. But with all that said, this is still a PG Pixar film, so the heart of the story is the relatable characters and genuine moments of humor. However, some of that humor is aimed squarely at the parents in the audience. In one scene, Fear, true to his name, anxiously exclaims,
What was that? Was it a bear? It's a bear!
There were no bears in San Francisco.
I saw a really hairy guy. He looked like a bear.
Now, kids may just think anger is poking fun at someone with an untamed fuzzy back, but adults in the audience are probably aware that he's actually referring to a particular subculture within the gay community. However, these characters do live inside the mind of a kid, so maybe Riley isn't so clueless after all.
Okay, can I just say something crazy?
I love crazy.
Frozen. Can you believe it's been almost 4 years since Frozen came out in theaters? In that time, this Academy Award-winning film has raked in over $1 billion at the box office. That's right, billion, with a big old B. It's actually the highest-grossing animated film of all time, and that's no surprise. With toe-tapping musical numbers, a strong cast, and a great story, Frozen is probably Disney's best film since its Renaissance era. So of course, in true Disney style, Frozen features its fair share of jokes that are just for the parents. This was a blink and you'll miss it joke that we're sure went right over the heads of any younger kids in the audience. In a scene where Kristoff and Anna are discussing Prince Hans, Anna is trying to convince Kristoff that she knows a lot about him. He asks her questions and she fires back with quick but ultimately evasive responses.
What's his favorite food?
Sandwiches.
Best friend's name?
Probably John.
Eye color.
Dreamy.
Foot size?
Foot size doesn't matter.
Have you had a meal with him yet?
And speaking of Frozen, the sequel to the hit film is set to hit theaters on November 27, 2019. Why such a long wait? Well, Frozen is Disney's biggest franchise at the moment, so they want to take the time to get it right. But rest assured, things are already shaping up well. Kristen Bell is set to reprise her role and has said that the script for the new film exudes quality. We'll just have to wait and see if it will exude any more adult jokes.
Happy 30th anniversary? They're having a party without me.
Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph is the critically acclaimed 2012 computer animated film starring comedians John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman. This video game-themed adventure follows a digital villain who tries to become a heroic good guy. In doing so, he finds himself jumping between different arcade universes and encountering all sorts of characters based on popular video game franchises. With a cast like this one, it's no surprise that a few adult jokes made their way into the final cut. Near the beginning of the film, Ralph is peeking in at the party being held for his game's 30th anniversary. When he sees that Pac-Man has been invited, he angrily exclaims,
That cherry-chasing dot muncher isn't even part of this game!
Now, we're not sure if we should explain exactly what a cherry-chasing dot muncher is, but we're sure you can come up with a few crude guesses. Besides, it just sounds dirty, doesn't it? This comic cast will reunite in 2018 for the film's sequel, Ralph Breaks the Internet. With a title like that, maybe we'll get a not-so-subtle Kim Kardashian reference. The Emperor's New Groove. This slapstick comedy, which premiered in the year 2000, tracks the bratty teen Emperor Kuzco. After throwing a bit of a tantrum, which included throwing someone out of a window, his former advisor and would-be assassin gives him a potion that accidentally transforms him into a llama instead of killing him. With an unforgettable score and a unique art style, The Emperor's New Groove has become a bit of a cult hit after its poor initial performance at the box office. Despite that, the film is still responsible for a direct-to-video sequel and an animated TV spin-off. So, are there any adult references hiding in this perfect world? Well, in one scene, Kronk quite literally pinches a tent over his waist as he cozies up with his stuffed bear for a nap. This has got to be one of Disney's best visual puns, hands down. But it's not the only sly piece of humor in this film. In another scene, Yzma terrifies Kuzco and Pacha when she begins lifting up her dress. What does she show them? A dagger. We'll leave it up to you to figure out exactly what they're expecting to see. And did you know that The Emperor's New Groove was originally supposed to be a serious musical epic film in the same vein as The Lion King? The original title for the film was Kingdom of the Sun, before Disney executives decided to change the film into the comedy we know and love today.
In my day, we had plenty of fun just throwing rocks at each other. Big bag of dirt clods, that's what the kids want.
The Rugrats movie. The blabbering babies of the Rugrats started off life as a long-running television series. In fact, it was the longest-running Nickelodeon cartoon for years before finally being eclipsed by SpongeBob SquarePants in 2012. Regardless, Rugrats ran for 9 seasons with over 170 episodes, and it even spawned a trilogy of feature films. The first in this franchise was 1998's The Rugrats movie, which sees Tommy Pickles come up against his greatest adversary, an attention-stealing little brother. The film was a success for Paramount and Nickelodeon, with a laundry list of celebrity guest stars which included Whoopi Goldberg, Tim Curry, and even Busta Rhymes. Audiences are treated to a few asides from the other babies in the hospital. One pair are lying near each other and discussing how things have really changed since they left the womb. One baby laments,
"Man, they cut my cord."
Oh, consider yourself lucky.
The Rugrats series actually featured a lot of adult humor, but this circumcision joke is a cut above the rest.
Thank you all, thank you.
That wasn't flying. That was falling with style.
The Toy Story franchise. Toy Story has spawned 2 sequels and a number of spin-offs, with a 4th installment in the franchise set to be released in 2019. Directed by John Lasseter, the latest film will follow the toys on their quest to find Bo Peep. Thankfully, most of the original cast have already signed on to reprise their roles, so this is shaping up to be another great adventure for the classic franchise. So we think it's only fitting to look back on some of the questionable jokes and gags that have made their way into the first 3 films, starting with the 1995 original, when the gang meets the creepy Frankenstein toy creations made by Sid. They're understandably a little freaked out. But one of them, a toy with Barbie doll legs and a hook for a body, is a subtle reference to the working girls of the night. Get it? Lady legs? Hook? Well, this visual pun was hopefully lost on his younger viewers. These subtle jokes worked their way into Toy Story 2 and 3 as well. In the scene where Buzz first sees Cowgirl Jessie in Toy Story 2, his wings abruptly shoot out as he stares at her with his jaw on the floor. And in Toy Story 3, the writers push the boundaries of the family-friendly comedy when Barbie compliments Ken on his nice ascot.
Nice ascot.
Come on, Ken. Recess don't last forever.
Which may mean a nice tie, but we know there's some sly humor going on there.
Nice work! Excelente!
Is Wonder Boy here for real?
Hercules. This joke from 1997's Hercules is a little more subtle and is more of an adult joke because kids probably hadn't learned about this specific reference yet in English class. When Hercules and Meg go out on a date, the two decide to keep things very refined and go out on a sensible date to the theater. It turns out the play they saw was Oedipus Rex, an Athenian tragedy written by Sophocles sometime around 429 BC. In the play, Oedipus becomes king by unknowingly killing his father and marrying his mother. He spends his life trying to avenge his father's death, only to find out he was the one who did it. Upon discovering the gruesome truth, Oedipus blinds himself. If you didn't know the plot of this Greek classic, you might not have known what Hercules meant when he told Meg,
That play, that Oedipus thing? Man, I thought I had problems.
It's true, we don't think the plot of Hercules quite compares when it comes to true, gut-wrenching tragedy. But the strangest thing about this joke is that it means Hercules and Meg sat through a pretty disturbing piece of theater for a romantic date night.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. We can stay up late, swapping manly stories, and in the morning, I'm making waffles.
SHREK. SHREK is the 2001 animated classic led by comedian Mike Myers and featuring a stellar cast that includes Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and John Lithgow. This comedic fairy tale about a surly ogre became a huge franchise for DreamWorks, spawning 3 sequels, 2 holiday specials, a spin-off film, numerous short films, and even a Broadway musical. Hopefully, you still haven't had enough of the multi-layered character because a 5th feature film is set to be released in 2019. Boy, do I love onions. Perhaps the best adult joke in the original film comes when Shrek and Donkey first approach Lord Farquaad's kingdom. Upon first seeing the enormous structure, Shrek remarks,
"Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?"
As a kid, you probably thought this simply referred to his small stature. Farquaad is, after all, comically short. But adults know there's more to the joke than the leader's shrunken spine. It's a common turn of phrase when referring to a man's shiny new sports car, a lavish mansion, or, a big golden statue of himself. He must feel inadequate, as if he doesn't measure up in other ways. The writers were pretty brazen with Shrek. I mean, just think about Lord Farquaad's name. Sound it out really slowly. Bet you didn't realize that one as a kid.
Mater? Yeah, like Mater, but without the tuh.
Cars. Disney Pixar's Cars is a young speed freak's dream. This 2006 computer-animated comedy follows rookie racer Lightning McQueen as he hopes to overtake veterans Chick Hicks and the King to become the Piston Cup champion. True to its namesake, the film had its premiere screening at the Charlotte Manor Speedway in North Carolina. Despite being a post-Renaissance Disney film, Cars has all the makings of a true classic. A heartwarming story, great voice acting, and music by the legendary Randy Newman. But as we've already learned throughout this video, there's something else that every Disney classic must include. A few jokes that are just for daddy. There are a number of these in Cars. But the best one comes at the end of the first race in the film. Twins, Mia and Tia, storm through the crowd to flash their headlights at the charming McQueen. That's right, they may be anthropomorphic automobiles, but Mia and Tia are literally flashing our hero. In fact, the expression flashing your headlights would be a well-known euphemism to racing fans.
The Incredibles. The Incredibles was one seriously fun time at the movies, and the 2018 sequel is high on our list of most anticipated films. Extremely anticipated since it's been a decade since the original. As we wait for that film to fly into theaters, we look back at the awesomeness that was the first film and all the wackiness that went down in it. We all know about that flexibility joke that Elastic tells Mr. Incredible.
Flexible.
But was there anything else that might be awkward? Turns out there was. In one scene in the movie, Mr. Incredible is being sued for saving people that didn't want to be saved. If you pay attention to one of the headlines, it clearly states X-ray vision peeping Tom. Yeah, we can see why this guy was getting sued. The sad bit is that any superhero in real life that would have X-ray vision would totally use it inappropriately. People these days, huh? While the term may not be common knowledge to a lot of kids, any parent who's suddenly forced to answer that question may feel their cheeks starting to turn red, resulting in the desire to have superhero powers to either distract one's child or to flee the scene in breakneck speed. Despicable Me 2. Gru is coming back to cinemas too, and he's bringing the Minions with him. We're sure the film will be a big hit with families all over the world, with its fun story, wacky characters, and silly humor. But we can't shake the fact that there was some eyebrow-raising content in the series. Take Despicable Me 2, for example. At one point in the film, the Minions end up having an ice cream party and end up getting seriously smashed under the influence of the wonderful dairy product. It was already pretty funny and weird seeing the Minions go all out on their party, but anyone who's keeping an eye out on the whole frame will definitely notice some other shenanigans going on. To the top left of the frame in one shot, we clearly see that a Minion is working up some serious dance moves on a pole. Yep, that's right. Not too sure about you, but if any kid were to ask me what that Minion was doing dancing on a pole, I'd proceed to freak out and find some logical explanation. The Minions would also get a little suggestive in their own movie by flashing a man when they were trying to sneak into the Tower of London. Did you ever watch an animated film with your family and find a particular scene to be awkward? What scene was it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And of course, the answer to our emoji trivia question is... thanks for playing.